afternoon. Welcome back to Passionate World Radio Network. To become successful, one must place themselves in the path of a giant. Passionate World Radio Network. And today at 6 o'clock p.m. on Lillian's interview, Lillian is interviewing Jason-Dowd, who is a photographer and artist. So good afternoon, Jason. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, Lillian. I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I am doing quite well. So you decided to become a photographer.
Yeah, I did it a long time ago, and actually I kind of got into it because I loved art. But one of the things that I could never seem to do when I was drawing art was be able to physically create a normal-looking human being. And I loved human beings because I believe that they are probably one of the most finest pieces of art that are out there. The human body is amazing. And so the best way that I found out how to do that was to be able to take it into photography and putting them into different scenarios, different types of themes, and create my own artwork using humans that are actually real, not just something I painted on a canvas.
So you gave them a more three-dimensional look.
Yes, that's
gave
definitely
them depth. And the camera, which has a better eye than we do, is able to ferret out some of the distinguishing marks on them or within them that you don't always get when you look at it to paint it or to draw it.
That's true. It gives you the true life interpretation of the person. So it takes every scar, it takes every wrinkle, it takes every bruise that you have, it takes every bit of emotion and brings it into the camera for people to see. And I think that's more powerful in many ways than just a painting. But there's nothing like being able to paint the picture yourself and, you know, what it represents and how it brings out people with their own interpretation of the hand. But what I like about the camera is it actually sees the person as I see them. And when I focus in on people, no matter what it may be, I want to make sure that I get the story. I want to get the emotion. I want to see that. And the best way that I can do that is to focus on the eyes, because the eyes are a pathway to the heart, and you cannot lie through the eyes.
Well, you can try. I mean, a good many people seem to think if you squint them or close them or you narrow them or you widen them, that there are things that you can do. But I find when you take a picture, for example, when you use your cell phone and take a picture, it really does capture something, a moment, an expression, an emotion that you can't always really express when you're doing it with pen and pencil or doing it with charcoal or even when you're doing it with paint.
That is true. That is absolutely true. And the reason being is that when you paint something, it's not real. It's just a picture that you're coming in your head and you're using your hand to draw it. But when you physically take somebody's picture, you're taking a piece of them. You're taking that time in history that will never be able to be duplicated again and put it on a paper. You can put them on canvases now or whatever it may be to show the world.
And I think when you're doing that, you can almost paint your own movie in order to have the follow-through of the person's expressions or their movements or even what they're thinking, because a camera can pick this up. A camera can be very unkind if you're not careful when you completely relax everything about you.
That's absolutely right. And that's one of the things that I try to do when I do photography is I don't like to dictate to the model what they need to do or how they need to pose. Sometimes you kind of have to, but I try to leave it up for their interpretation because I want to tell a story. And the best pictures and the most powerful pictures and sometimes the most realistic and I guess you could say individual pictures, you know, it really brings out the individual, is when I don't tell them what to do. I capture them in real life, doing real-life movements. And so I'll just sit there and wait. I mean, I could sit there and perch myself for as long as it takes to get that picture and not move because I want to get that picture. I want to get that emotion. And as soon as I see it through the lens, that's when I take the picture. And it's nothing like you'd ever see.
No, and I think in some ways I can make the likeness for when the Natural Geographic photographers go out into the wild and they're doing a wild animal scene or they're photographing sharks or even just a waterfall. A waterfall does not remain the same during the whole 3.5 seconds you're looking at it. It changes. It vibrates. It's alive with its own flow of water coming down and then going off in different directions and bouncing and pinging, whatever. And when one takes a look at some of your photographs that you've done with the model or with the pictures that you have interspersed them with, you can get that feeling that there's movement even though the frame is still.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And I think what makes their photos so amazing is that they wait for those moments and they capture the real life. They're not, these people that are out in these villages or whatever, or the animals that they're taking on the Serengeti, they're real life. They're not posing them. They are out there in the wild, laying down on their backs or on their bellies or crouched in a tree waiting for that right picture, because that's true life, and that's what makes it so amazing. And it does tell a story, and you can create a movie with it. If you take enough pictures, you'll be able to tell a story. You'll be able to tell exactly how that thing moved.
So once you discovered this type of secret about your photography and art, how much have you stretched yourself to embrace it?
Pretty much I engulfed my life with it. And I realized that the more I think about an idea that I want to come up with, I always try to put them out on paper. And I have so many lists of things I want to do because there's so many cool stories I want to tell. And a lot of the times I get a lot of the ideas from actually reading. And a lot of people don't read that much anymore. And I think that's a shame, because when I come up with these ideas, I look back at the stories that I've read as a child, or I look at the stories that I read now, and I try to put something together where I can create a story that I want to tell with my own interpretation through my pictures. And believe it or not, if I don't sit there and do enough pictures, or a certain type of my list gets completely jumbled up with stuff I want to do and I haven't been able to do it, I get really depressed, or I get really anxious, because it's like I want to get this stuff done. And it does impact me emotionally. So really everything that I have done and what I haven't done yet, it's completely engulfed my life, and I love it. And I believe I wanted to be a storyteller, and this is one of the best ways that I can tell my story. I can show people how I see life. I can show people the things that interest me, and I can take different situations that you just can't normally find in life, like let's just say fairies and pixies. I love taking fairy and pixie pictures, especially with little children, and creating an amazing story around them. And it helps me express myself, and I think other people seem to like it as well. So everything that I do has been a part of everything that I've done has engulfed my life with it, from just taking pictures and going to shows and, even doing websites that I draw up and design. All that stuff is wrapped around my photography, and I don't know where I'd be without it. If I look back when I started this in 2009, I've been a photographer since 2003, but when I start really getting into the art field of it, I don't remember what my life was like too much with my art before that time.
Oh, I understand that. I started an internet talk radio station 10 years ago, and it's my life now. And nobody who knew me would ever think that I would ever do anything like this, because they never saw it in me, but I saw it in me, and I wanted to go out for it, and I did. But sometimes people don't see what's in front of them, or they choose not to see what's in front of them, and it takes a very strong person to look within themselves and discover who they are and then start working with it, because most people want to stay within the trying, the true, and the comfortable.
That's true. And I was kind of the same way, too. And I realized that if I want to make something with myself, I got to push myself to a special limit. And I don't want to exceed my limits. I want to work on it, and then when I get to that plateau, jump to the next level. And there's so many people that don't look past what's right in front of them. They want to hand it to them. They want somebody to come up to them and say, hey, you know what? This is what I think you need to do. And they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But I think it takes a certain person to get out there and physically think of what they want to do with their life and accomplish it. And it's not easy. And believe me, I have put some blood, sweat, and tears into this. I've gone to shows where I have been praised and torn apart at the same time. And people have said some horrible things about me. but I never gave up on it, and that's okay. I took the negative and tried to turn it into a positive, and I took the positive and keep it as a positive, and just keep looking forward to that goal that I want to have, and that's the fact that I want to tell stories and I want to change the world or impact the world or start up a new conversation with my work.
And that's something that other people should aspire to. I know that when I turn on the world news, they always have somebody up there that they tell you, and you're going to be really inspired by this person. You're going to be really motivated. And I think to myself, no, you've got that wrong. If a person wants to be inspired and motivated, they're the only ones who can do that to themselves. Nobody else can really do that for them because it's not their glory, it's not their hard work and perspiration that got them there in the first place. You can admire that person. You can root them on to their next success or for the next finishing up of a goal, but you yourself cannot be motivated by the same things that inspired this particular person to forge ahead. And that's why I don't like it when people say I'm a motivational or I inspire people to do things, because the only person that can make you do those things are yourself, nobody else.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. And one thing that I do realize is that, like you said, you can aspire to be like those people. And I don't like to always people that seem to be successful, everybody tries to tear them down. And I believe that a lot of that's mainly because of jealousy. They wish that they could do that. And they could if they just put the same amount of effort into it and find what it takes to get them inspired enough to get out there and do it themselves. But I don't like to tear people down. And I like to sit there and see that, okay, that guy made $17 million doing exactly what I'm doing now. That just gives me a goal because I know they can do it. And if they can do it, I can do it too. I just have to find my way about to get there.
Exactly.
And that's not always the easiest thing.
No.
But, that's the fun part about it. The fun part is in the mystery. How do you get there? What do you got to do to get there? What types of things do you have to mentally have in your head to get there? And then when you get there, it makes it so much better. And because you did it yourself. Exactly.
And sometimes you need to take what you've seen others do and put a new twist on it, because no two successes are exactly the same. There are no carbon copies out there. You have to put your own spin on something to make it work for you personally, because you're the one who's making it successful, not that other person, which is a very hard concept to teach to the rest of the world, because they all think, well, we can all be like so-and-so if we just do what so-and-so did. And that's not true. Your particular art, your particular strength is going to be different from my particular art and my particular strength. We may both reach the same type of success, but how we get there is going to be by different routes.
Mm-hmm. And I've actually had people try to copy me in many, many ways, and they can't seem to get the exact same feel. But they have the style, but they don't have the feel. And that's because I do things a little bit differently. When I look at a person, I'm not looking at their body. That's the least of my worries.
Yeah.
I want to get what's inside, and the only way you can take a picture of what's inside is to set the mood and shoot to where you can see the inside of their mind and their body and their soul, their heart. And the only way that you can do that isn't with a pose. It's through the eyes.
It's through the eyes. Or the suggestion of what I call a very fast impression of what their facial expressions convey. It's not something that sticks around, but it's just a slight whatever. And that plus what you see through the eyes can pretty much tell you what's going on. And not everybody can achieve that type of clairvoyance.
That's true. And that's why everybody's style is different. And, it blows my mind because I've been to shows, and it's like everybody wants to take you down. It's like it's very cutthroat. And they'll put you down, they'll do all this other kind of stuff to you, and it's terrible. They won't support you if you're like the lead artist for that particular show. They won't come out and support you. They'll tell you fire down at every possible aspect that they can. But they got to realize that you're never going to be exactly the way I am, and I'm never going to be able to be exactly the way you are, even if we shot the same model, both of us at the exact same time, at the exact same place, it would look different because everybody has a different style. So that's why I don't understand why the art field has been so competitive, other than the fact that I think maybe people just want to make sure that they get what they want to get out of it, and they want to try to get all the money, which that makes sense to me. But nevertheless, we could take the same model, same pose, 1.5 to 2 seconds apart, go home, edit it, and come back, and nothing will look the same.
Oh, so they've proven that. Now, Jason, it says on your biography that you were influenced a lot by Walt Disney.
Yes, I love Walt Disney. And what I loved about him the most is that he wanted to tell a story, like I do. But one of the things that he did throughout his time was that he almost went bankrupt a couple times. He managed to take a field of art that was not very popular during the 1940s, during the World War II, because of the war effort, and survived the war effort. He survived the Depression, and he did it because he was passionate about what he wanted to do. And he had some setbacks. No matter what his setback was, he always came through. He always found another way. And he just wanted to make the world a happy place. He wanted to show some amazing things, and he did amazing things. And in fact, 3/4 of what we know in the film industry is because of stuff that he had invented for him. Sweatbox is one of them. People may not understand what the sweatbox is. Storyboards. A lot of them didn't do storyboards back then. The reason why we have film that has audio attached to it is because he didn't want to sit there and sync it like they did on these other types of movies that were coming out in the 20s, because if they were a second off, he wasn't going to be satisfied. So they created all this stuff around him, and he changed the industry. And he told the stories that are still timeless to this day. And no matter what he has ever done, he was always a success. Even though he failed in some ways, he was still successful because he came back from it. And I want to be that exact type of thing. I want to be able to tell a story. I want to be able to show people life in different ways. I want to have these stories that are timeless. When you look at my picture, hopefully in the next 80 years from now, it'll still be as timeless as it is now, no matter what it may be. And, obviously his stuff was more princesses and, Bambi and stuff like that, where mine isn't necessarily those types of stories. But they have a meaning, and I want people to be able to enjoy those meanings as long as they can. But the other thing I want to do is I want to bring it to life, and I have been trying to find ways of doing that, taking a 2-dimensional picture and bringing it to life, and hopefully I'll be able to have the exact same type of success as long as it takes, and make my little empire the way that he did. And one of the ways I'm going to do that is I'm never going to give up, no matter what life throws at.
Yeah, I'm not a giver-up either. I was going to tell you, if you could do with photography what he did with his first Fantasia movie with music, you have a firm believer. I saw that as a child, and I loved it. Oh, my goodness. It was like the cat's meow to me. I couldn't imagine how anybody could actually get the music and the different instruments to be heard that way, and sound audio. It just blew my mind. And we're talking 50s, So
and what's cool about that is that was an experiment that he didn't even know if that was going to make it into the motion picture.
Yeah.
It was just a complete experiment, and it was an amazing experiment.
Absolutely. I mean, that was one of the best movies I ever saw. And I have to be quite frank, I like it better than a lot of the movies that they've now come out with all the sound effects and everything else, the special effects, because to me, it's not a retelling of something that's worth being remembered. Mm-hmm. It's just stuff that you look at and say, that's nice, and you throw it into the garbage bag and move on with your life. It does not have a profound effect on me. And that's what you want to do with your art and with your photography, is to make a profound effect on somebody, so the next generation would say, "Now that was a good piece of photography."
That's right, and that's the only thing I can do, and that's what keeps me driving every day. I'm probably going to have about 1,000,001 different series that just won't be the greatest thing. It might be forgettable, but I'm going to try it, and it might stick. And that's why I'm never gonna shy away from something, because to me it may not sound like it's going to be the wow factor, because we don't know what the wow factor is. Sometimes if we prejudge things, we end up being severely wrong later on down the line. So if there's an idea, I'll put it out there. If I can do it. If I can't do it, well, then I'll put it on the shelf, and that means that just means it's probably going to be more of a wow factor later on, because I need more time to develop it. But if you have an idea, no matter what it is in life, don't prejudge it. And that's the thing that I know Disney did a couple of times. He prejudged Peter Pan. He prejudged Bambi. He prejudged Pinocchio. And those three movies happen to be one of the timeless classics that he came out with. Didn't happen right away. Happened like in the 60s and stuff, where people really started jumping in on them. But he prejudged him, and I can only imagine what would have happened if he would have said, "Scrap these." Could you imagine that, not having Bambi? I don't know what my childhood would have been like if I didn't see Bambi.
Well, I like Peter Pan, and I know my son still has all the VCRs of all the Walt Disney classic movies, and he still keeps them, and he has them for his kids, because he's been studying them. He's an artist, and he has his kids studying them too. He says, if you have to watch a movie, watch these.
Mm-hmm. And you know what was really cool about Disney, and I didn't realize it until just about a few years ago, and that was Salvador Dali, who was actually one of my favorite painters, happened to be a Imagineer with Disney in the early 20s, and then eventually broke off because his work was just a little too obscure for what Disney was looking for. But they were great friends all along, and I never knew that. And I thought that was the coolest thing when I found that out. I was like, wow, two of my favorite artists work together. How cool is that?
That's pretty cool. So, Jason, please tell everybody where people can find you on the World Wide Web, where they can come in contact with you, and all that other stuff.
Sure. You can find me a bunch of different ways. I'm on every social media network out there. I'm on Instagram at, I believe it's jason-dowd or Dowd Studios. I am on Twitter at Dowd Studios. I'm at Facebook at facebook.com/Dowd Studios Art. And I am also on the website. So it is www.imaginationartstudios.com. And I just released a new series for this particular radio show, which is the Dominican Republic pieces of the beautiful world. So actually they're up there right now. So when the show's ready to go out, we're going to be there. So you can go out and check it out, and it'll be special for the show. Oh,
that would be great. Thank you very much. And, folks, if you would like to hear this interview all over again, please go over to twitter.com/PWR Network LLC, facebook.com/PWR Network, googleplus.com/PWR Network LLC, https://passionateworldradionetwork.com. And before we go away and stray, Swift had this to say: it is a miserable thing to live in suspense. It is the life of a spider. Thank you all very much for listening. And remember, please go over and visit Jason Dowd's website, because the stream should be up in another 2 hours. Thank you very much, and have a good day.